Another superstar out of New Zealand, but what is next for John Vake? Welcome to the Australian MMA podcast. My name is Mitchell Tinley. I'm your host. Today's guest is a man who's taking on Lachlan Stitt, June 22nd, Eternal MMA 86. He trains out of City Kickboxing alongside Israel Adesanya, Dan Hooker, emerging stars, Navajo Sterling, Brandon Pericic, and so many other legends of the game, Kaikara France, to name a few. John Vake is an interesting one. He's been around for 12 years in professional MMA. He has had the highest of highs and the lowest of lows in not just his career, but his personal life. He's represented Tonga in wrestling at the highest level. He has fought the very best there is in mixed martial arts. And like we said, ups and downs in his career and ups and downs in his life. He unfortunately had to go through a pretty traumatic event 3 years ago, the death of his younger brother, who was a victim of a coward punch, devastating in New Zealand. And it's a good chat with John Vake. I mean, I reckon we talk about fight coming up on June 22nd for about 2 minutes. But John Vake has been around for a very long time. And it's very interesting that it's taken so long for me and him to have a chat, but he is incredibly insightful. Family is everything to him, and he's one of the most likable guys I think I've ever had a chat with. So New Zealand government, especially you, have a listen to this, because they're not just great athletes, they're great men. Without further ado, the man taking on Lachlan Stitt for the Eternal MMA welterweight crown. Ladies and gentlemen, John Vake.
Ladies and gentlemen, joining me on the show, a man that has been around Australian and New Zealand MMA for a very long time, and he's competing for the Eternal welterweight title against Lachlan Stitt, June 22nd. John Vake, mate, welcome.
Hey, Mitch. Thanks for having me, mate.
Mate, you have been around for well over a decade in the professional scene. Weird that it's our first chat as well, but I mean, what, at least 12 years in and still going. How do you feel?
I feel good, to be honest. Feel very blessed that my body's still able to do it. Yeah, as you're saying, you've been in there for a while, and just grateful that I'm still able to get in there and perform.
Like, longevity is everything in the sport. You've obviously seen fighters come and go with injuries, records, love for the game. I mean, how's it changed from when you first walked in the door to now?
Oh, night and day, mate. I think 12 years ago, MMA still wasn't seen as a sport, right? So, as far as it being, as far as us taking it like as serious as a sport and what we have right now, which is like sport science behind MMA, night and day, mate. I think back in the day it was more like just hard nosed, everybody trying to fight. Our training didn't necessarily make sense back then, but yeah, it's just the evolution of MMA now is just night and day.
And speaking of sort of it not even being looked at as a sport, I feel like in New Zealand, even though you guys are pound for pound, probably the best in the world, it's like your government still doesn't look at you guys as legit athletes.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think it must be a little bit of the old heads. New Zealand is a very big boxing community, and also a very big rugby community. So, those two associations, from my understanding, they're the biggest and oldest, and generally have the most say. MMA is still very much new kids on the block, you know.
Are you much of a rugby man?
League,
Yeah. You like it?
league. Yeah, up the wires with the league guys.
You're a bit of a amateur wrestler yourself as well. How talk about that in the early days, and what was it like getting into wrestling in New Zealand?
Well, I only got into MMA because the progression of wrestling and after high school is like pretty much non-existent. Like obviously, when you're in America, you get scholarships to go college and continue to wrestle. Um, like we're saying, the MMA landscape 12 years ago was night and day. Now imagine all the supplementary sports that help MMA. They're like BJJ, grappling. So they would have been even further behind. So wrestling back then was even way further behind, but it was a sport that I gravitated towards, and it's something that I really like to do. Since there was no progression in wrestling back in those days, the natural progression was towards BJJ. which is how I got started into MMA.
I mean, you could have gone into pro wrestling.
It was funny. Yeah, I actually went to wrestling because I was a fan of pro wrestling, and then I figured out it was two different sports.
Yeah, one's very, very, very real in terms of and what it does. Although pro wrestling, I hear, is quite hard on your body. Did you ever think about kind of jumping in the pro wrestling ring at all?
I've never really given it too much of a thought, but I am a lifelong fan of wrestling. I keep in like contact with like the storylines and that quite often. Not as fanatic as I used to be, but yeah, I'm a big fan of wrestling.
Yeah, because I'm in Perth, and the WWE came in February, and like saw it at the stadium, and it was like, yeah, it's like I'm not as up to date as I used to be, but like I like did it for me as a kid. I was like 12-year-old Mitchell would have like you would have killed to be here, so you got to go there and watch it. It was
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah, I agree, mate. I agree.
Now, when you represented, it was Tonga, wasn't it, in the wrestling? What
Yeah, it was.
Where do you, and I know a lot of guys in your team are often sort of representing sort of two different countries, but how do you look at yourself as Tongan or New Zealand?
I look at myself as both. I think my parents came here at like as an adult, right? Like just like a normal story. They came in here for a better life. So majority of their life was in Tonga. Both of them were full Tongan. So that makes me full-blooded Tongan. But I'm New Zealand born, so I'm very much a Kiwi. But I identify with both, not one more than the other. Some days I'm one, some other days I'm the other one, eh? But I'm both very much a hard, eh?
Whoever's winning the rugby.
Pretty much, yeah.
No, it's interesting because you know Soa Palele who's in the UFC.
Yep, yep,
Yeah,
yep.
so
I didn't.
his son plays basketball at like a place that I do like court announcing, and the support, like he played, I think his second game in like the sort of league, the rep sort of basketball.
Mm,
The mate, it was like he won the world title when he hit a 3-pointer. Like I've never seen the crowd was packed of the
yeah.
largest Tongans you'll ever see in your life, and it's like, what is it like to have that sort of family, friend, community support?
Well, like I love how you brought that up. I think the big thing about me being Tongan is that like there are actually more Polynesians now in Australia than there is in MMA. So identifying with my Tongan culture allows me to connect with all my brothers all around the world. And we're talking about the Tongans in America, the Tongans in Australia, the Tongans in Europe now. So the one thing that my heritage gives me is my ability to connect with all my people. Whereas per se, representing New Zealand sometimes it's a niche in itself.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, I'll, like for example, I'll come over to and fight in Australia, and I'll have Tongan fans there just because they love the heritage, as you say, and they always want to see a Tongan brother win. So
Are you automatically like, I don't know if this is racist or not, but if you see like the tougher brothers, are you automatically like friends? Like, is that how that works?
yeah, I'm not sure if that's racist or not, but it's true. It's
Yeah, it's
actually
just like,
true.
it's
Very
like
true.
because you go like, I don't know. That's how, like if I was in America, right, and I seen an Aussie, like we're kind of immediately like, even in like when we go to like Bali or Indonesia, like you see an Aussie,
Yeah,
you're at least like, hey, and it's like I'm assuming that's what it's like for you guys wherever you
yeah.
go.
100%. There's a couple of times that I've had a privilege to go with the UFC guys, and I got to see Max Holloway, and they had the same thing. I'm like, hey, you give him the old, and then he looks over, hey, and it's an instant connection.
That's so cool, man. Look, in terms of family, you've got a sort of adopted family at City Kickboxing, and we talked about you fighting for well over 10 years. Mate, you've fought half your teammates. What's that like?
Um, actually, it's just like anything, mate. Like you fight your friends and you become closer. So, um, if anything, the fact that a lot of our teammates had fought each other and then we banded together is probably might be like one of the secret recipes of why we're so strong together. Because of you know what I mean? Like when two friends have a fight and then they're mates later, they end up becoming best mates. Well, half of our teams fought each other, then we became a team. So,
Is there
you
a
know,
little
so
bit of like, when you mix it up with like Izzy or Israel Adesanya, he like, I got you. And then when you mix it up with Brogan Anderson, you're like, got you. Like, is there a little bit of like, hey,
Yeah, there is. There's always that, but I think the amount of rounds that we spend in the gym, we all know that on that night was their night. They could get you one day and you get them the next day, and you realize that if any fighter was going to fight 100 times against the same person, for them to say they're going 100-0 is a bit insane, you know. So we all give each other each of their own, you know.
What's it like to mix it up with you got a few guys there, a few guys emerging, and of course Israel, who's one of the best fighters that we've ever seen, Dan Hooker and that. What is it like to sort of every day you go to training, you know the recipe to get to the top?
Mate, it's a dream. It really is. Like you talk about 12 years ago, watching shows like Never Back Down and trying to mimic those fight shows to now walking into a gym and you see a huge like from what you're saying, like Dan, and you see Kai and you see Israel over there, and then also some of these up and comers like Navajo Stitt rolling around now, you know. And you got Kevin Jusay there, who's still young in his career, you know. So um, it's just crazy, you know. It's a dream come true to go from like garage style of training to now like a PI.
Mm.
This
Do you
is
look
where everybody quits their job, goes to Hollywood, and want to become a fighter, you know. So
well,
it's amazing.
exactly. It's almost like Eugene Bareman is like a cult leader. Uh, you guys just buy into like everything he says. You're like, man, you're almost like the godfather of how you will get us to the top.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds easy like that. Like it sounds easy like that, mate. You know what it's like, eh? Like you tell a fighter, like, mate, you gotta fight, you dedicate yourself for 8 weeks, you water load and you do X, Y, and Z and you make the weight, and then you'll fight. And like it's just not that, you know. So
Yeah.
like of course Eugene's gonna tell you like that was a example of an 8 week camp. Like imagine an 8 year career journey. So day to
Yeah.
day tasks is just gonna come and go, you know. People have their own lives and their own things that they're going through, and each day there's always going to be a new problem. So like, yeah, you're right. You do. I think solely you have to deep down inside believe what he's saying, but that's not like your turn. And this is no racism. You don't turn Nazi and all of a sudden you're following Hitler for the rest of your life. You know what I mean? Like there comes and goes. You know, like there are complaints and there are fights and there are a lot of things along the way. You know, issues that happen. But yeah, I do agree. If you don't fully believe in him,
Mm.
and believe in the vision or the plan that he has for you, yeah, it's not going to work. But at the same time, just believing in him and following the process and following the journey are two different things.
Does he own enclosed shoes? Because I swear he always corners in sandals.
I think I've seen him wear it once or twice. To be fair, I think I've seen him wear it once or twice.
Now, mate, you've had a few ups and downs in your career. You're getting a massive opportunity to take on a young up and comer, Lachlan Stitt, for the Eternal MMA welterweight crown. What does it mean to sort of capture these regional belts?
Everything for me, you know, like you're saying, my career has been wayward. I've had ups and downs in it. I'm my biggest critic, and I know for myself. You know, you call a spade. That is what it is. But I feel like truly right now, I'm entering the prime of my career. I just get how to do this now. And some people be like, "Oh, you're in there for 12 years. How do you just figure it out?" I'm like, "Well, sure, here is my journey, not yours. I'm telling you right now that I am where I am right now, and I'm the best on Vake there is, and I'm ready to put on I'm ready to put on a performance, and I'm ready to create stability in this. You know, not just in the division, but in myself. I have a standard of the way I want to perform, and that's going to be the way I want to perform until it's done. And it starts with this kid.
And uh, in terms of your career, I mean, you don't look like you're a couple more fights and you're done. You look like you are very much ingrained in this and you're going to be this for a very long time. But have you ever thought about how many more years you kind of want to do, or what's the sort of plan?
Nah, not at all, mate. To be honest with you, do you know how hard it is to suck at something you love? You know, for me to finally start getting it right now, I'm not even thinking about the exit. I want as many guys, as many fights as I possibly can.
That actually reminds me of, I mean, now that we're going full circle on the pro wrestling, there was a great promo by a guy, I think his name was Dolph Ziggler, and he said, yeah, this big thing on like, sometimes the things you love don't love you back.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
have you had moments where you've really been like, man, like MMA, I've given you everything?
Yeah, 100%, mate. Like the highest highs and the lowest lows I've experienced. I think a lot of my fan base in Australia is the fact that they've just watched my movie played out. They watch me lose title fights, they watch me get knocked out, they watch me like lose close big fights. And I like to think that I just never gave up, and I'm here now. And I believe right now more than ever that it's my time.
What is your highest high and what is your lowest low?
And what you mean in regards to MMA?
Yeah, you're definitely the career.
Um, I think my highest high definitely will. Oh, it's hard to say. I think it's still yet to come. I think once I found that highest high, I'll be done. But yeah, I'm still looking for it. I feel like in the lowest low, mate, every loss stings differently. So like, it's sort of like a breakup, right? The girl breaks your heart, and you're like, oh, I'll never be the same again, mate. I've got eight, mate. I've got eight lowest lows.
8 breakups. You just keep dating.
Yeah, just I can never feel like this again.
But it's the chase. It's the chase that we love. And then you get it. And then what is it?
Yeah.
On to the next one. On to the
Then it's
next
on to the next one. Yeah.
Now, mate, before I let you go, I would be remiss if I didn't ask you on this, man. And you feel free to not talk about it if you don't want to, but 3 years on since your brother's passing, can you talk about just how that has felt to sort of carry the memory of him along in your career and kind of take it all with you, and obviously with your brother as well, doing so well in the sport? And can you just talk about kind of where you're at 3 years on?
Mate, I would be lying if I said there's not a day I don't think about my younger brother. Heavy, heavy every time I think about him. With that being said, I feel like I don't have a burden to represent him, but I know I do. By far, bar none, facts, the greatest Vake they ever lived. But the thing that I understand now is that he doesn't get given an opportunity to live out his career, but I do. And I think that's 100% why my mentality is the way that it is. I don't cry over spilled milk. I mean, all these MMA geeks can come in here and look at me and tell me about this loss, and he was inconsistent here. But I think life pushed me into this place now where I'm really willing to give it everything I got. And that's where we are right now. But yeah, massive, massive. I'm so proud. One of my greatest accomplishments in life is that I was his older brother. And I'm going to carry that all the way into Saturday.
And speaking of Saturday, I mean, how does this fight with Lachlan Stitt? I mean, I like talking about life with you more than I give two shits about the fight, but I'm so excited about this fight, you versus Lachlan Stitt. We get to see John Vake finally perhaps reach sort of where we all expect him to be, and then obviously you shoot off to even greater heights. But June 22nd, how does this fight go down?
With me getting my hand raised by any means necessary, I am coming in there the performance of my career. And yeah, that's all I can say about that. On Saturdays, you're going to see the best John Vake. Don't expect anything. Just enjoy, because there's going to be nothing like you've seen before. I want to bring in a whole new package.
John Vake, this has been a hell of a chat from start to finish. Thank you so much for your time. I can't believe we've taken this long to have a chat. Best of luck, mate, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you, mate. Appreciate it much. Have a good day, mate.
You're the best, brother.